Now, as much as lots of things we've talked about already have showed that life has changed as a result of COVID-19 and the lockdown restrictions, one thing that remains almost like a constant is the challenge in reaching your customers. To talk to us about that and to explain how we might be able to do that in this post-lockdown world, Paul Bowen, the Creative Director of Ardmore, is going to talk to us about that communications challenge. Paul.
Thank you, Simon. Okay, thank you for the time. I just want to remind you to pop all your questions on Twitter using the hashtag Ardmore Live, and use the chat function on the YouTube as well. So, my name is Paul Bowen. I'm the Creative Director with Ardmore Advertising. First thing I want to talk about is, I'm just having an issue with my slides there, apologies. The first thing I want to talk about is, what place has creativity in everything that we're talking about here today. How we're going to deliver all of these things, and it's predominantly around the tone of those things. It was one of the most encouraging things for myself personally to see that, even before lockdown had began, creativity was the first thing that we all turned to, and then as lockdown kicked in, we really started to get creative and learning instruments and gardening, baking dough bread apparently, and learning another language, as that clearly says there. And then if people were not contributing to creativity, they were looking for it as well. And we all wake up at night with a Netflix bomb in our head, family quizzes, live streaming concerts, and TikTok as well, as a couple of the guys have already spoken about. So we shouldn't be afraid to be creative. It's about the right tone, and that's the main thing that I want to talk to you about today. So who has done this really, really well? I've picked a few examples here. They're specifically, I've made sure that they're not all advertising examples. I wanted you to see the different behaviours in which people can address these issues that we're facing. And first up is Maltesers. It is an advertisement, and I'm just going to play this for you now.
I'm going on my first ever video date in an hour.
Oh, wait, in that room?
What's wrong with this room?
That plant screams I haven't had sex for years.
It's lying. I'm going to change it.
Oh, now we know why.
I can't believe you were talking to us in your knickers.
My date knickers.
Sorry, what? We can't hear you over the plant screaming about your massive saggy pants.
Actually, they are very tight, massive pants.
So, they came out and released a statement and said, now is not the time for sales metrics. They decided that to get through this period, they would maintain their naughty tone, but relate to their audience in a manner that, as you see, it's through the Zoom chat, we're all associated with it, but also that is their specific audience, the demographic that they communicate to, and relating to the environment that they find themselves in with the first ever virtual date. And also, what was kind of a bit of a taboo at the start of this was to make people smile. People weren't sure if it was okay to make people smile as we moved through this. So it wasn't about hard sales, it was about association. They're taking the long-term view on marketing through the coronavirus, which, as you know, will endear you to a brand or endear their audience to a brand. The second one I want to take you through is Paddy Power Darts from Home, and I'm just going to play this a minute long or so.
Hi there, welcome to tonight's very special Paddy Power Darts from Home, featuring 16-time champion of the world, Phil the Power Taylor, against the Queen of the Palace, Fallon Sherritt, the woman who shot the men at the Alexandra Palace at Christmas.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Queen of the Palace, Fallon Sherritt! Ladies and gentlemen, the record-breaking, history-making, 16 times the champion of the world, it's Phil the Power Taylor! I've got the power! Hey up, remembered the lot. Brilliant.
So, Paddy Power, obviously an example of an e-commerce business, but the source of everything that they talk about or deal in e-commerce had been removed from them. Sports stopped. And as a bookmaker, that's possibly the biggest problem that you could have. So they had an issue in how they stayed front of mind with their audience. And the way they did it was just to bring sport back to them. And they created their own platform. So this wasn't an advertisement at all. That was an edit of a 38-minute film. This was about programming. They decided to solve this by giving people what they'd been missing all this time and doing it in a very personal way. You got to see some of the dart players' homes. Clearly, darts doesn't pay very well considering the hallway that the lady was playing in there. But they gave the audience exactly what it was that they were wanting. And, you know, it's something that, again, as they come out of this, the audience are going to remember that was their only sports respite that they got through that period. And up next, and really, really recent, as recent as the weekend, and again, not advertised in the slightest, but you know, it did come to life through digital channels, was the BBC Glastonbury coverage. So, you know, again, I've tried to pick instances where this coronavirus that we've found ourselves in, these 100 days that we've found ourselves in, have actually taken away the ability to do what it is that we do. And BBC's Glastonbury delivery is always, you know, it's a high point of the year, but they took something that was going to disappoint the 200,000 people that attend the thing, but also it's over 50 million viewers that watch this on TV and across the digital platforms. But they made it something that is special, something so special. It's probably going to be remembered more than some of the other years because of how special it is. And they did it with just a few different tricks. They looked at the history of the festival. They gave you literally hundreds of performances from all across the years that you could go and view on the red button or on the iPlayer. Importantly, they put on new concerts and new exclusive performances as well under the scaffolding of the pyramid stage. And then finally, the biggest and best thing that they did was they encouraged people to create their own Glastonbury at home or Glastonbury. And these were coming in all across the weekend as well. And on top of that, they've put mixtapes on their Sounds app. And, you know, it's just an endless way of bringing this festival to life. But the important thing for me that I really enjoyed about this was that I never was sold to by the BBC. The BBC didn't talk to me and said, this is coming on for you. The BBC spoke to me as a person standing alongside me in the crowd. They were a fan as well. And that was what made it so special for the people that look out for this as well. But that was how they turned it around. Something that had just gone completely, and they still managed to find a way to bring it to life. So, you know, what can we learn from that? And essentially, there's three things. And each one of those, Maltesers, Paddy Power and BBC, have shown an acute understanding of what their own brand is and what it means to people, the environment that we're in or the circumstance that we're in, and how you can adapt to the challenges that presents, and an acute appreciation of the audience's needs and mindsets. So just to break down a little bit on each of those things, on the brand specifically, one of the things that we found, and it's not just ourselves, this is across the world and through the Worldwide Partners Network, is to stay true to your brand. You know, prove how your personality and tone is right in these instances. They always say that you see someone's true personality in a crisis, and that is what your brand is. It's a personality. It's your company's personality. And if you adopt a new personality, you know, as an individual, if you adopt a new personality, people are suspicious. And if you do that during 100 days of when, you know, they're quite traumatic days as well, they're going to be even more suspicious. Just a little example there, Tesco themselves, they didn't even need to put the Tesco logo up there, but because now more than ever, every little helps. That says to people that what they were doing before is still right now, and they can ride this storm out and bring it to life. So it's really important to stay true to your brand. This is a tool that we use. It's like they're called brand archetypes. They're familiar characters that help set the tone of your brand. If you take a look at these things, you should be able to see your own brand in there. And we've also, you'd be well aware of us adopting a brand archetype so that your business talks in a certain way. These are just those to help you with that. And some examples of how people have brought this to life. So if you're a jester, like Burger King are, then it's okay to make people smile with the stay home of the Whopper. If you're a sage, as Google are, then it's okay to educate. And they were first out of the blocks with the thank you to the healthcare workers and so forth. And if you're a creator like Apple, then it's okay to inspire. And indeed, what they did with this film, I'm not going to play the films for you now, you'll have seen them, but what they did with the film was essentially claimed creativity. Apple claimed creativity, and they didn't do it through any footage that they shot. This is all entirely consumer generated. That's what it just showed, how creativity is at the core of what they do, and that's exactly what Apple do. But make sure what you say is said at the right time. This came across as insensitive and crass from KFC. It was purely bad timing, but finger-licking good at a time when we were told not even to be shaking hands with people didn't come across right. Bad timing, as I say, but you've got to be careful of these little pitfalls. So just on the environment side of it, it's not just the environment, it's a circumstance that the world finds itself in as well. But it's essentially, I know this is a global pandemic, but it's being reactive to these things as we go through life. And it's not necessarily what's relevant to the world, but also to the environment that your audience specifically find themselves in. So just want to poke a little into the environment there. So you've always got to be conscious. You don't necessarily need to act on it, but just always be aware of it. It's not brain science. Nike lead the way in this, and of course can afford to, but they don't advertise sneakers. They share beliefs now, and so we've got Black Lives Matter then, and obviously the reaction to the COVID-19. It's okay for them to do that. They've established the position that they're able to do that. They started out as a challenger brand. Now they lead the way by sharing their beliefs. But when it comes down to a granular level for us, we've just got to act accordingly, or don't. And we've got to not to be seen to be opportunistic. I mean, a lot of what we are talking about here is looking at the opportunities, but you can't be seen to be opportunistic. And also, you've got to be aware of the topical, the cultural, and the relevant, and you've got to be aware of when you should react on it. Of course, the tone at the moment that we're all very aware of as we move through lockdown, out of lockdown, into post-lockdown, is that we've got to be responsible. And then finally, onto the audience themselves. So essentially, there's sort of three main touches on this. First is that you've got to recognise their new priorities and attitudes, and I'm just going to show you a little slide on this next as well, but a lot of the guys have already talked about that today. Their habits are changing, but the motivations are not, as Ed said earlier. Stay in touch with public opinion about yourself. It's the best measurement that you will have. A couple of people have touched on this again today, but coming up to this thing here, the same old thinking breeds the same old results. That used to be an insult. You won't even get the same old results if you do the same old thinking now. You'll get far less than that because their attitudes and their mindsets have moved on. And what habits and behaviours have they formed? So this is quite a noisy slide, I know. It's originated by an agency called BBDO. And essentially, it's the needs and mindsets that as we move out of lockdown and we move into a post-lockdown era, these are the things that we're bringing with us, there's a host of needs and mindsets that people are experiencing during as they come out of lockdown. Negatives that brands and businesses can offer a solution for, like cabin fever and boredom and anxiety, alongside old needs that they've missed, like friends, family, freedom, and secure finances. And the things you've come to appreciate, like a simpler life, the environment, and community. And what I want to do is, I know everything that I've shown you here today has been sort of big budget brand campaigns and so forth. But I want to show you how we've brought these to life for businesses that you would work alongside. So first up, Stena Line. We can take an awful lot of those needs and mindsets and apply it to a campaign for them. Appeal to the local. It's about the staycation and moving, time well spent with families. A simpler life because we are moving into celebrating being around our family and enjoying time with one another. It's about the environment. We talk about safety because clearly we can get an awful lot more social distancing when we're on a ship as opposed to flying. Finances is a big thing for Stena Line, is that the flexibility. They won't charge you if you're going to change your dates. And like I say, freedom is the main thing that Stena Line can claim to own in this time. They can be the enabler of freedom because as we come out of this, we've got an appetite to get out and explore. Secondly, with Translink, an awful lot of these qualities, mindsets and needs can be applied to Translink as well. Another client that we've worked with for a long time, Translink are going to be key to getting Northern Ireland back on its feet again as we move through this period, but there's an awful lot of the things that they're doing, and they're leaning on a lot of this, like digital activation. Digital activation means that you can buy your tickets online, you buy them on your app. It's, you know, it's all contactless, but again, about giving back. So they did that in the early stages with the free travel for NHS. All these things you can start to apply, and you can start to fuel ideas and creative thinking that can spark an association between the brand and the audience. Lidl, we were, I think, the first agency in Northern Ireland to go out and film live footage, and we did this, and we brought this to life. This is essentially a family that are facing the same struggles as the rest of us are, but they're succeeding because of Lidl. They're being able to spend time well, and the whole thing is about savings. It's all about savings, but it's also about family time as well. It's another campaign that's doing phenomenally well. 10% increase in market share, largest increase across that sector, just recorded, I think, Monday past. So doing really well in Northern Ireland. And finally, Visit Belfast. A lot of you will, I know an awful lot of the chamber members are well aware of what's going on there, but Visit Belfast, they've got an awful lot of the qualities that we can bring to this now. You know, obviously time well spent, relieving the boredom and the cabin fever and giving people freedom to get back into the city. But the giving back is really important because, you know, we're a very close a close city that will always reach out and support local businesses, and that's where the giving back will be something that people will be proud to contribute to as well. So yeah, just a few ways in which we've brought it to life. So what I would take from all of that is essentially, you know, by finding a common ground on the behaviours that arise from the circumstances, as in this little bit in the middle there, what we get to do is bring the brand and the audience close together. And if you do that, it's proven that they will remain loyal to you. And it's not that difficult to find a way to do that using these sort of tools that we're looking at. So in summary, what I would say is, you know, it would be easy to look at the negatives in this, but you know, this is a fertile ground and there are endless opportunities here. And I just want to leave you with this last note. Find the insight that makes what you do and say matter to your audience.